Now, we've been playing this wonderful cat and mouse game for a while because I've been on the run from the Inverness Caledonian Thistle authorities, but at the same time I've also used that opportunity to film the next episode of Hidden Grounds. And I've been asking you to try and figure out where I am, but apparently you couldn't get Geo Rainbolt on the line because at least if you've guessed where I am, I haven't actually seen it. But as of yesterday or last night, wherever I happen to be, all of that information came out on Twitter and Instagram because the actual match was happening. I've been in Copenhagen. I've been in Copenhagen with Bruno's Magpies, which is a club from Gibraltar that happened to make it to the second round of the Conference League and then draw a match against Copenhagen, the same team that beat Manchester United and made it to the Champions League knockouts just last year. They're also in the second round of the Conference League. I pretend to know a lot about this stuff. I don't even really remember exactly how the Conference League works. I guess that Denmark, because Copenhagen finished third, is getting a team into the second round of the Conference League after a third place finish, right? How Copenhagen manages to finish third in their own league while making it to the Champions League knockouts when their own league is the Danish league is beyond me, but shout out to Brøndby for being one of the two teams that finished ahead of them. That's the only one that I can remember. But the point is that a team affectionately dubbed the best pub team in the world, went up against the biggest team in Denmark. I feel comfortable saying that. I mean, they play in the Danish national team stadium, right? The actual capacity of the stadium in which the match last night took place is larger than the entire population of Gibraltar. And Bruno's Magpies is not one of the traditional three power teams in Gibraltar either. They were founded in a bar 11 years ago. But you're going to have to watch all the Hidden Ground stuff to learn all of that. What was amazing, it has me completely convinced that the Conference League is one of the best inventions that has come out of the 21st century, is that Bruno's Magpies took the lead. And don't get me wrong, they're not a pub team anymore, right? It's a team composed of actual pro and semi-pro players, right, to play in the top league in Gibraltar, which obviously the level of that is rising. Lincoln Red Imps, the Gibraltar and the Gib champions, made it to the Champions League qualifying second round, only to get blasted by Karabag from Azerbaijan. But these dudes are legit. Like, this is not a team that you and your buddies could walk into, right? And they didn't play like it. For the first 60 minutes in Copenhagen, they were legitimately in this game. And it was kind of the same thing in the first leg. It was 1-0 to Copenhagen in the first 60 minutes. It ended up being 3-0. And last night it was 1-1, I believe, through the first 60 minutes. And then Copenhagen scored 4 goals in the final 30 minutes as the legs got heavy towards the end. But this, I mean, legitimately, they were able to hang. It had the lead. I mean, I can't even tell you. All of the fun things that I've been able to do in my life, to be in the away end with like the 25 fans of Bruno's Magpies, this team that is founded in a restaurant in Gibraltar, sitting next to the founder of the club, who's in his early 30s, maybe. I don't know exactly how old Louis is, but I mean, the club founder and still kind of co-chairman of the club, just sitting next to him in the stands with all the buddies that made the trip from Gibraltar or England or wherever they happen to live now to be in the away end. When that team went up 1-0 in front of a stunned National Stadium in Copenhagen, one of the most interesting, amazing experiences of my entire life. One of the best things about Hidden Grounds. And if you want to watch, obviously, that whole experience, the next episode of Hidden Grounds, I'm sure will be out in like 5 months from now. Adler, how long is it going to take to edit? 6 months. He said it'll be out in 6 months. Tentatively. Maybe 2 years. But without the Conference League, this sort of thing would not be possible. These opportunities for clubs like Bruno's Magpies that finished third or fourth in Gibraltar would not be possible. And it's the sort of experience that not only attracts people like me that are interested in it and then kind of amplify the story, but legitimately gets the name of a club out there, gives the opportunity to a bunch of players from Gibraltar or how many guys on Gibraltar on the team? Somewhere between 8 and 10. But it gives this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to all the guys that play on this team, or for some of them, gives them a return to the top if they played at this sort of level a couple of years ago, which is the case for a couple of the guys on Bruno's. And while I was watching the match, I'm just thinking this is what football is all about. We're going to run through the other results in the Champions League and the Europa League and the Conference League, which there's, of course, in the Conference League, there's just going to be a ton of fun results going on. That's just how the Conference League works. But to have a team that was literally founded 11 years ago, right, in a restaurant as an amateur pub team, right, that has now progressed. I mean, it's like a football manager save, legitimately. Every single year finished higher in the league, right? And now these guys that, I was watching the match with the first coach of the team, the founder of the team, and the starting left back on the original team 11 years ago. And these guys are all still like young watching this game. It was just, it's amazing. And even after the game, Copenhagen was brilliant about it. They came over to the away section, which again was like 20, 25 people, and invited all of them to go to the club section and have a few drinks at the bar and hang out with everybody. And they had the team come through, the Bruno's Magpies team come through, and they got celebrated and clapped by the Copenhagen supporters. Like, it was just, it was so heartwarming, and it was nice. I feel like most things that I see and read about are sad, depressing, frustrating. This was just pure heartwarming. And what blows my mind, it makes me excited to make 100 more episodes of Hidden Grounds, is that sort of story and that sort of experience is being told all over the place, even when I'm reading the different results that were happening in all of the qualifying. But the second round of qualifying for all three European competitions is over. Here's what you needed to know. Lincoln Red Imps, the champions of Gibraltar. I told you they got smacked by Karabakh. This ended up being 7-0 on aggregate, so you didn't really need to pay attention to this. When it came to the Champions League specifically, the favorite won basically every match. It was kind of the culling. There was no extra fun side dish here. The Turkish champ beat the Swiss champ. Cyprus beat Moldova. Apoel, the Cyprus team, kept moving on. Sparta Prague knocked out the Irish team. Ferencvaros knocked out the New Saints, which is just a service to all of humanity. Slovakia's team knocked out Slovenia. And Klaksvik, the Faroese team, even though they managed to win the home leg, was eliminated by Malmo on aggregate. So the Swedish champions avoided an ignominious fate for a second consecutive time. You have the Norwegian champs knock out the Latvian champs, the Danish champs, Midtjylland knock out the Andorran champs. So it was Midtjylland and Brøndby that finished ahead of Copenhagen. There we go. Now I learned. The Romanian champs knocked out the Israeli champs. The Ukrainian champs, Dinamo Kyiv, knocked out Partizan from Serbia, which is probably one of the bigger surprises that you're going to run into in this round. The Polish champs beat the Lithuanian champs. The Bulgarian champs beat the Belarusian champs. And the Greek champs beat the Bosnian and Herzegovinian champs, right? So no serious surprises on that side. The Europa League is a bit thin in the second round of qualifying. There's only like 8 to 12 matchups. They have to wait for the teams to fall down from the Champions League into the next round of qualifying. But again, not a ton of surprises. Ajax was the biggest team in this round. They managed to pull off the win. Rapid Vienna's another big team that was in this round, the Austrian club. They blew out their Polish counterpart 6-1 in the second leg to just make sure. Rijeka from Croatia's through. Cercle Bruges knocked out Kilmarnock from Scotland. Panathinaikos beat the Bulgarian team. Turkish side Trabzonspor avoided an upset against a Slovakian team I've literally never heard of before named Ruzomberok. Braga from Portugal absolutely smacked Maccabi Petah Tikva. Really, if you're going to point out an upset, it would have been Molde beating Silkeborg. Molde had the 3-1 advantage after the first leg. Silkeborg made it 3-2 in the second leg, but the Norwegian team got through. The Danish team in Elfsborg beat the once famous Sheriff Tiraspol from Moldova, who will now head down to the Conference League. But the second round of qualifying, there is a ton of Conference League matches, and that is really the only competition where we see real surprise clubs sustain themselves, because that's the competition that produces the real surprise clubs and stories. For starters, on Tuesday, Drita from Kosovo advanced to the third round over the Icelandic club Breidablik. We also had the Estonian club Flora manage to beat Virtus from San Marino after extra time. Virtus nearly got all the way to the third round playing against an Estonian opponent here. Virtus actually scored in the 88th minute to equalize the score at 2 after a scoreless first leg, and that brought us all the way into extra time, where 3 goals were scored by Flora. I don't know what happened for Virtus, but they just fell to pieces in extra time. It wasn't enough, even though Flora did end up with a red card to its name. Punic Yerevan advanced to the next round, and they're not even the only Armenian team that's going to the third round of this competition. Balkani from Kosovo and Dekic from Montenegro just on Tuesday. A Latvian team named Auda knocked out Cliftonville from Northern Ireland. They went to the next round. Montenegro's Mornar Bar actually managed to upset a team from the Serbian League, which there's a really significant difference between the quality of the Serbian League and the quality of the Montenegro League. That one went all the way down to penalties until Mornar Bar was able to get through. But the best thing on Wednesday was Ilves getting to the next round. Now, Ilves is a Finnish team. The Finnish league is not terrible, but Ilves itself has objectively the worst and also the best badge in football anywhere. That is real. This badge is legitimately real. It was drawn in 1973. I forgot the name of the guy that drew it, but that for whatever reason, Ilves has stuck with that, and it is awesome. And Ilves was up 2-1 going into the final leg, gave up 2 goals in the first half, got it back, went behind, got it back in the 90th minute to force extra time, went behind again, then scored in the 112th minute to force penalties, and then won the penalty shootout by making all 5 before Fitz missed his 5th for Austria Vienna, sending Ilves through to the 3rd round of European competition and carrying on the greatest badge in history. And then on Thursday, Bruno's Magpies was obviously smited. Astana from Kazakhstan continued. There's the other Armenian team, Ararat Armenia, that advanced over Moldova's Zimbru Chisinau into the 3rd round. I can't tell you how many times multiple Armenian teams have made it to the 3rd round of any European qualification, but this has to be one of few at least. It wasn't Brøndby. It was Silkeborg that finished second. Ordubasi from Kazakhstan also advanced to the 3rd round. They won a penalty shootout against Differdong from the Luxembourg League. Unfortunately, we finally run into some predictable results with teams from Czechia, Hungary, Croatia, Cyprus, Slovenia, winning matches that they're expected to win. But newer European club Sabah Baku from Azerbaijan, they advanced to the 3rd round in a penalty shootout over Maccabi Haifa, who definitely were expected to win. Estonian club Paide advanced to the 3rd round in a matchup of 2 teams where literally either one would be a surprise entrant into the 3rd round. Go Ahead Eagles was upset by Norwegian side Brann, which is a great showing overall for Norway in European competition right now. Remember when I said there were 2 Armenian teams? There's actually a 3rd. Noah, I can only assume Noah's Ark here, has beaten Maltese team Sliema. They've not beaten them convincingly in the second leg, but the first leg was 7-0 to Noah from Armenia, so they took care of business. St. Patrick's from Ireland's into the 3rd round. They beat Vaduz, the Liechtensteinian team that managed to get out of the opening round of qualifying. Vikingur Reykjavik from Iceland is into the 3rd round after beating Albanian side Ignatia. And all of these clubs are mixed in here with teams like Ghent, which managed to beat Vikingur from the Faroe Islands. That's one of the Faroese teams that managed to get into the 2nd round. You've got Başakşehir here playing against a team from San Marino that managed to get into the 2nd. There's so many teams in the Conference League qualifying because it's at the bottom of the rung that you did matchups from just complete opposite ends of the spectrum, all of which are super interesting to me. Because you know the club from San Marino playing at Başakşehir was having this kind of once-in-a-lifetime experience. And a big shout-out to, well, HB Torshavn. You know we've covered Faroese football before. They held Hajduk Split to a 0-0 draw at the National Stadium of the Faroe Islands. Very competitive performance. There are still some miracle runs alive in the Conference League. Those are the big ones. The rest were mostly favorites, as you probably saw as I was going through the different results. But now you're caught up. We're going to the 3rd round of qualifying, which of course will kick off before you know it. And I'm sure I'll be here sweating in a hotel room telling you about them again. But if you ever have the opportunity to go to one of these early round qualifying matches between a David and a Goliath, go. They are awesome. They are amazing. And this competition is awesome and amazing, obviously.